Hello and welcome to today's session in the MSDynamicsWorld.com BI and Reporting webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com and I'm really excited to have you all with us today. We have a great session coming up on what it means for a business to really sharpen their competitive edge in the marketplace by using the value of your BI and analytics solution. So today's presenter is Babson College lecturer Ruth Gilleran, someone who has worked extensively both in the software industry as well as researching it, and we are really excited to have her with us today. We will save some time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to enter your questions anytime in the Q&A block on the right, and we will try to get to as many as we can at the end of the session. So without further ado, please let me introduce Ruth Gilleran.
A little bit about myself. 13 years ago, I was working for a software vendor, Computer Associates, developing a mainframe ERP system. And it was a very feature-rich, fully functional system. And I was at a user conference in Las Vegas, meeting with some of our users, and a customer came up to me and said, you know, we have all the data we need now. You know, over the last several years, you've put in all the enhancements that we've requested. Now we just need to get at the data. And I'm assuming that that's why many of you are here today, because you've implemented ERP systems, CRM systems, supply chain management systems, and now you are anxious to get at that data, leverage that data. So anyhow, I went home from Las Vegas and started building a BI system. Again, this was 13 years ago. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about those efforts later. I moved from Computer Associates to Babson College, where I teach mainly freshmen and graduate students who are in our, well, we have 4 MBA programs. We have a 1-year, a 2-year MBA, a fast track, a blended MBA, and a part-time and evening MBA. So I teach the fast track, the blended students, and the students who are here for 1 year to earn their master's degree. Next month, a lot of my current research is on social business and mining social business data. Notice I say social business and not social media because social business is really adding a social layer throughout your organization. In other words, adding it on top of all your operational processes. And oh, by the way, if anyone's interested in attending that seminar, which I'm doing next month, just go ahead and shoot me an email. I've put my contact information on the slide. My email, that's my work phone number, and Jason is going to be sending you out these slides. I'll be providing them to him after this session. A little bit about Babson College. It is a beautiful private school in Wellesley, Massachusetts. 200 undergrads, about 1,300 grad students. Students receive 1 degree, and that's in business administration. And as you can see from the top of the slide, Babson College has been ranked #1 in entrepreneurship for the past 15 consecutive years by U.S. News and World Report. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship at Babson, we talk about entrepreneurship of all kinds. So not just startups, which is probably what first comes to mind, but also social entrepreneurship. We had some grad students recently develop a trash container called a Big Belly. It's certainly here throughout the East. I don't know if it's where you are located, but it's a huge trash compactor that emits a signal to central facilities to empty the trash can. And this started as a social venture because these students were concerned about the amount of trash, particularly on ski resorts that they frequented. And it's sort of hard to find out, you know, that there's a full trash can at the top of the mountain. So that's an idea of a social venture. But primarily we talk a lot about corporate entrepreneurship, which is thinking entrepreneurial within an organization. And that we phrase as entrepreneurial thought and action. We use the acronym ETA a lot. So what we're asking our students to do is, you know, when they graduate and they enter the workplace, we want them to be obsessed, just like startup entrepreneurs are. We want them to be obsessed with how they can help move the bottom line and innovate by either creating a new product, a new service, or a new process. And, oh, by the way, most innovation comes from is process innovation. So I mention all this because you'll hear me come back to this entrepreneurial thought and action theme throughout the presentation. So here's a definition of business. Notice I'm calling it analytics as opposed to intelligence. To me, business intelligence is a bit passé. That term's been around for a long time, and it really referred to standard reporting, ad hoc reporting, standard reporting. I like to use the term analytics, where I'm more interested in mining and analyzing data using online analytical processing, OLAP, cubes, and I'm very interested in the visualization layer. But either way, it's all about collecting data in order to make better, quicker decisions. Now, this graph is from the research firm Forrester. They are in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they study IT trends. They also do vendor comparisons. And Forrester reported out, they did a survey of 2,400 IT executives and decision makers in the US and Canada, France, Germany. And what they found was when they asked them, what is your top priority going forward, and that would be in the year 2011, what's your top priority? And lo and behold, business intelligence came out at the top of the list. So I want to tell you that your time is well spent attending this series, this BI series offered by mxdynamicsworld.com. I also wanted to provide you with this slide because I know that many of you are in the process of trying to create a business case for the introduction of analytics into your organization. And so I wanted to provide you with some materials that you can use to help convince some of your management about the importance of fact-based decision making. So here's today's agenda. Well, chapter 1 of every IT textbook talks about the need for people, processes, and technology, how that mix is so important. I've changed the order around a bit, as you can see. I'm going to start talking about process, then move to people, and then technology. But I want to first start by asking the question, how many of you have recently seen the Academy Award nominated film Moneyball, based on the book about the Oakland A's? And if you have, you go ahead and just type the word yes into the chat window.
Yeah, quite a few yeses.
Yeah. Well, rumor has it that that movie has done more to communicate to senior management the need for data-driven decisions than all the books that the academics and the practitioners have written. So if you haven't had a chance to see that movie, I understand it's on DVD now, we can take a look at it. But that's why I start with I've got a baseball analogy here. My recipe for success for all of you is to follow this AAA approach. Starts with analytical leadership, so you need that. You need senior management convinced of the benefits of data-driven decisions. Next, you need to take an agile approach to your projects, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And finally, you need to provide answers to important business decisions, and you need to provide those answers anywhere, meaning the platform ideally needs to be device agnostic. So those answers should be able to be accessed via an iPhone or an iPad. Then we're going to look at the people that we need to make this happen. And last, and notice it's last, we're going to talk about the technology. All right, so we're going to start with the first A, which is analytical leadership. Can anyone guess who said this? And if you can, type your answer into the chat window. Which CEO, founder and CEO of a major corporation said this? Looking for answers, not seeing too many, so I'm going to give you another hint. Graduated summa cum laude from Princeton, dual degree in computer science and electrical engineering. And if that doesn't cut it, one more hint. Everyone on this call, or at least one of your faculty members, have purchased a product from the company that this individual founded. Any guesses? Just type your, Carol, yes, I'm seeing, and I want to say that we have a winner, and that would be Carol. And I wish I had a prize for you, Carol. Next time I will. And Sam was close, the Amazon guy. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Bezos. Very analytical thinker, obviously. Degrees in computer science and electrical engineering from Princeton, so you'd expect that. But really interesting quote here. You know, the most junior person in an organization can win an argument with a fact-based decision. Okay, how about this quote? Anyone guess? Now this is actually a multiple answer question because this quote has been attributed to a few people. Any guesses? Type your answer into the chat window. Thomas Jefferson. Okay, that's a really good guess. For all I know, he could have said that, Tom. Ah, yes, okay, we have a winner. Alfred, I don't know if it's Alfred or Fred, but Deming, the QA guru, is certainly one of the individuals that's been attributed with saying that quote. Along with Doug Hall, who's a judge on the American Inventor Show, who was at Babson last year speaking to our undergraduate students, and the former CEO of Sara Lee Bakery actually had a plaque made up, and it was sat on his desk that read just that. So, you know, essentially what we're asking is, you know, do you think that this is a good idea, or do you know this is a good idea? Do you know this is a good idea because you've got facts to support your argument? Now, I want to talk to you about a study that MIT did recently with McKinsey, strategy consulting firm. Here, this is a picture of Andy McAfee. Andy McAfee is a principal research scientist at MIT. He's at the Center for Digital Business at the MIT Sloan School of Business. Andy is a thought leader and an IT thought leader. If you ever get a chance to listen to him speak, you absolutely want to do that. Lately, he's speaking on social business. He's actually referred to as Mr. Enterprise 2.0. But Andy conducted the study with McKinsey. He phoned 330 companies and was looking for, you know, what makes a company good at IT. And this is what Andy concluded from his research studies. The strongest relationship, one that held up across our analysis, was between higher output and greater emphasis on data-driven decision-making. The companies that reported they had the data they needed and actually used it, and that's key, to make decisions, were the ones with the highest productivity and profitability. So I provide you with this slide, once again, if you need to argue the business case for BI. Here's more evidence. Here's another MIT study. This is with MIT Sloan Management Review, a fantastic quarterly publication that I highly recommend you all subscribe to. MIT Sloan Management Review partnered with IBM, another survey, 3,000 executives, and what they found was top performing organizations embrace analytics 5 times more than lower performers. They also found that not all companies are ready to make data-driven decisions. When they ask them to rate on a scale of 1 to 5, whether they are making decisions based on analytics, most companies scored in the 3 or 4 range. And so the good news is, with your BI projects, you have the opportunity to help your organizations become more profitable and productive by relying on data-driven decisions. So we're now at the first A in my AAA metaphor, and that is analytical leadership. Now, the Standish Group, another research firm located in Yarmouth, Massachusetts, of all places, down Cape Cod, they study IT projects. They say they study failures so we can all succeed. And they produced a report called the Chaos Report, and that report always lists the lack of senior management support as either the #1 or #2 reason why IT projects fail. The other reason is typically lack of end-user involvement. So here's a list of organizations that have analytical leaders, and I'm just going to go through and talk to you about these different companies. Oh, by the way, this research came from a colleague of mine, Tom Davenport, who is considered probably the top thought leader in business intelligence. He recently published 2 books, and I have referred to them at the end of this PowerPoint. One is called Competing on Analytics. The other is Analytics at Work. And I highly recommend both of those books. So let's go through these examples. First, we have Capital One. I'm going to guess that many of you have received a mailing from Capital One. Capital One, real number crunching organization. They hire a lot of analysts. And so they use BI to evaluate the effectiveness of marketing campaigns. Last year they conducted 30,000 quantitative experiments based on different designs of credit card offerings. The experiment involved, what if it was this interest rate and this type of packaging? What was the likelihood that the customers signed up? So that's how they use BI. The Marriott, once again, uses it for marketing purposes to determine the optimal price for a room. So they have a model where they look at the location of the hotel, the time of year, what's going on, any important events going on, and that helps them determine the optimal price for a room. Then we have Hardee's and Progressive. These 2 organizations use BI to support research and development and new product introduction. So Hardee's, someone at Hardee's suggested that a monster stick burger would sell. Now, I don't know, if any of you, and go ahead in the chat window and let me know, have any of you been to Hardee's and eaten the monster stick burger? There are no Hardee's restaurants in the Boston area, so I can't say I have. But I'm curious, any of you want to admit to it, it's a 1,400 caloric hamburger. And not in Iceland. Well, I think we're missing out on something, or maybe we're not. It's a 1,400 calorie burger. And employees went to management and said, I think this would sell. And this was in the height of the the health craze, and all the other fast food chains were introducing salads and whatnot. And back to, do you think or do you know this will sell? So Hardee's implemented a pilot. They mined the data. They were looking at, sales by restaurant, obviously. They were looking at whether this product cannibalized the sale of the other products. Come to find out it didn't. And this allowed Hardee's to move forward. They were given a $3 million advertising budget to move forward with their campaign. Progressive. Someone came to management there and said, I think we could insure motorcycle riders, because we've collected data and we've mined it, and we found that if motorcycle riders with college degrees with good credit scores and no accidents, they're actually an okay risk. So that allowed Progressive to introduce another, to enter another target market. Then we have our favorite friends here, the number crunchers from birth, Amazon and Netflix that started doing this from the get-go. And of course, they use analytics for cross-selling and upselling. We've all received emails, right, from both companies. You bought this book, how about this book? Or you bought this book, how about this DVD? That's an example of cross-selling. Upselling is selling a more expensive product. But they're both very good at that. Harrah's Casino, Las Vegas. Harrah's realized that they could no longer compete with the high-end casinos on the Strip, Bellagio with the dancing fountains and Venetian with the gondolas. So they said, we're going to compete based on analytics. We're going to mine our data. We're going to really understand our customers. And they did that, and what they found was that their customers were really day trippers. On their way home from work, weekends, a day off, the senior citizen bus that comes in for the day. Those were their customers. And so once they knew that, they created loyalty programs, and they gave their customers coupons for food or gambling chips, rather than free overnight stays. Walmart and Ruby Tuesdays. This is an example of companies using analytics for operational efficiency. Walmart. Can anyone guess what Walmart discovered that folks buy when a hurricane is on its way in Florida? So when there's a weather forecast for a hurricane, what do folks buy? Anybody want to guess? Let me ask, what would you buy? Go ahead and you can type your response into the chat window there. You're in Florida, forecast for a hurricane. What would you buy? Ice cream. Candles, yes. DVDs, I would too. Mineral water, yeah, absolutely. Well, lo and behold, what Walmart found, and oh, by the way, they keep 2 years of sales receipt data. I mean, their IT service center is second in size to the Pentagon. They found that people buy strawberry Pop-Tarts and beer. And so now they have their data warehouse consists of both internal and external data. They look at the weather, and when a hurricane is predicted, out goes a purchase order to Kellogg ordering more strawberry Pop-Tarts. I've never had a strawberry Pop-Tart, but now I'm kind of interested in trying one. Walmart also shares their data with their suppliers via a system called Retail Link. So their suppliers can mine that data as well and be proactive and help Walmart get the right product to the right place at the right time. Ruby Tuesdays, they mine their table turnover. So from the time you sit down to the time you leave, and they look at that by store, and in doing so they discovered that there was a problem with the kitchen configuration of one of their restaurants in Tennessee that had a very large, a long table turnover time. They didn't know that until they went down to Tennessee, but the data pointed them in a direction. Oh, and then finally, we have our sports teams there. Speaking back to the movie Moneyball, I don't just have the Patriots and the Red Sox because I'm 10 miles west of Boston and a huge fan of both teams, but both teams have implemented BI solutions, and they're using it for both player selection and evaluating the fan experience. So back to, if you need to convince your organization of the benefits of being analytical, you might want to talk about some of these situations, some of these companies. All right. I'm now going to ask you to, if you can take a poll. I'm curious how long your BI implementations have taken. So Jason is now going to push, it looks like he's already done that, a poll on the right-hand side of the screen there. If you could take a minute, respond to this poll. If you haven't yet implemented BI, there's an option at the bottom, at the top, to say that, option A. So go ahead, we'll wait a few minutes, and then we'll talk about the results. All right, I see the poll has ended, and Jason's going to push out the results. Okay, so we see that of the 60 of you online, 17 of which have not yet implemented, 12 organizations were able to implement BI in 3 to 6 months, which is fantastic. 2 for 7 months, 1 for 1 to 2 years, and then 1 took longer than 2 years. Okay, that's not bad. I expected more of you to be in the more than 2 years area, although 27 folks didn't get a chance to respond. Why I ask this is because I'm now moved on in our AAA acronym. I've moved on to the second A, which is I'm going to strongly encourage you to take an agile approach to your BI implementation. If you remember nothing else from today's seminar, please remember this. This will determine the success of your project. You want to start by helping to provide answers to the most pressing issues in your organization, and I encourage you, like Walmart, to think predictive, think forward-looking. At the bottom of the slide, there's pictures of 2 different software development methodologies. One is called the waterfall method, where the IT folks march through the steps in this order. They will plan for, and they will do analysis. They will meet with the business analysts, and they will find out what the requirements are. They will go back and create design specifications for those. They'll code them, they'll test them, and then implement everything, okay, everything that the end user's looking for. As opposed to taking an agile approach where we have the same steps, but we start with the 1 or 2 or 3 most important features, and if it's possible to roll them out separately, they do that. And then they go back through and iterate through those steps. I'm a huge fan of agile software development, and of course that's a separate course in of itself, but let me just tell you a little bit about it. And oh, by the way, Agile is an umbrella term. There are Agile methods underneath that umbrella term. XP, Extreme Programming, Scrum is another Agile, very popular Agile method. but they all share the same belief that what you want to move towards is small, frequent deliverables. The benefits of this are twofold. One is that your stakeholders aren't saying, what is IT doing? They've been working on this project for a long time. You know, and in that time period, the needs of your stakeholders could change. And then the other thing is, just for the sake of the IT personnel themselves, IT people really get a kick out of seeing their software in production. And when they're working on a project that's 1, 2 years long, it's really easy to get discouraged. So just kind of a little bit of fun history. In 2001, 17 disgruntled programmers got together in Utah, ski resort in Utah. Just, you know, talked, skied, probably drank a little bit, but their outcome of their meeting was this Agile manifesto. And so what they're saying is that individuals and interactions that they favor over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change, hence the word Agile, over following a plan. And they're very careful to say there that, you know, while there is value in the items on the right, they value the items on the left more. This slide I actually stole from a presentation that the president of Babson College, President Len Schlesinger, recently gave. It was a talk on it was actually a talk on entrepreneurial thought and action. Len Schlesinger, former Harvard Business School professor, spent 10 years as president of the Limited Brands. I don't know, for some reason he left the world of Victoria's Secret to come to Babson College. But he was describing entrepreneurial thought and action, and he talked about how to deal in the face of uncertainty. There's certainly a lot of uncertainty when implementing a BI project, and what I want you to do is take a look at what President Schlesinger had to say here. I think a lot of it pertains to your projects. So, you know, what would rational thinking and behavior look like in the face of unknowability? You can either sit and think, or you can act. But you can't think your way into an unknowing situation. Therefore, the only logical thing is to act. So how do you act smartly? Take small steps with what you've got at hand. Limit the risk for each step. Make sure you're on firm footing. And then build off of what you find. And so back to being agile, I really encourage you to get a hold of some big, important targets and go after them. This philosophy is backed up by yet another MIT Sloan management study. In their study of BI obstacles, the #1 obstacle was the lack of understanding of how to use analytics. So if you look at the top bar there, it wasn't data quality as we might think. It's more, okay, we have these tools, now what? So please don't try to boil the ocean. Pick 1 or 2 important targets. Focus on the biggest and the highest value opportunity. Big problems command attention. With that attention comes resources and funding. When analytics are aligned to strategic organization challenges, keyword strategic, you know, it's a lot easier to overcome obstacles. In our MBA program, we study the SYSCO business case. SYSCO, largest food distributor in North America. They service restaurants, schools, hospitals. And they were very, very bright. They took an agile approach. They looked at, gee, where can we make the biggest impact? And it was in these 2 areas. First, what additional products could we be selling? And notice that this is, you know, forward thinking. And so the software would compare a given client's activity, you know, what are you ordering, compared to another customer of the same size, the same type, the same geography. and then suggest new products that they could be purchasing. The second question was, which one of our current customers might we lose? And so the software would look at ordering patterns over time and highlight instances where historically a customer was reducing its order volumes, either for a specific product or a category. And this could be very telling. Is the customer unhappy with SYSCO service? Is there a new competitor in the area taking away business? So SYSCO, when they implemented BI, they went after just these two topics, didn't try to boil the ocean, and got some very successful results that they put on a dashboard and shared it with the organization, and they were able to receive funding to roll out BI across the company. Earlier I mentioned Tom Davenport, Babson professor, author. Here he's talking at a marketing optimization summit. He was a keynote speaker, and he's talking on targets. So what I'd like to do now is go over to a video clip, and we'll listen to Tom talk about the importance of targets and decision making. I'm going to go into the video a little bit, and it's about a 3-minute clip.
Pearls of wisdom you might be offering our audience tomorrow. Let's start easy. Your latest book, Analytics at Work. Give us one of the stories about how changing the culture has benefited a company. What's your favorite?
Well, I mean, to me, the big difference between that
Tom, choose the right problem to solve and choose a really strategic target. All right, so now we're going to conduct another poll, and this time we're asking you, how many of you know what targets you are going after? So we'll wait a few minutes while you respond to this poll. All right, and then we'll have Jason will push out the results. And while we're waiting for Jason to push out the results, you know, I just want to make the comment that if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. So 14 of you, and I'm glad to see this number, said, I have targets, but I'm not sure they're aligned with the business strategy. So when you go back to your organizations, you're going to press on whether that is the case or not. Okay, we're now on the third A of our acronym, which is to provide answers anywhere, meaning any platform. And you know, here's a picture of the different users or the different stakeholders of a BI project. We have the information user at the bottom of the pyramid, and those are the folks that consume static reports. And then in the middle we have the folks who are involved with this multidimensional analysis, you know, pivoting and drilling down. And then at the top we have executives who typically consume this information via dashboards and scorecards. The bottom of the period I'm less interested in. That I almost refer to as BI. That's when we're looking at more historical information. Those are the standard reports. You know, for years, we've been hoping, and I think I mentioned to you earlier that I started creating BI applications 15 years ago, and our hope was that we could provide a tool and the end users could point and click and get fields from tables and get the results they want. Well, 15 years later, that hasn't happened, and so I'm much more interested in the middle layer and the top layer where we are serving up the information. The middle layer, we're serving up some summary data in a cube. We're serving up some dimensions. You know, you want to know sales by region, by item, by sales rep. Those are your dimensions, and different metrics. You want to know dollar sales and unit sales. We serve that up, and then the analyst can the manager can very easily manipulate that. And of course, at the top level, we're serving up to the exec via dashboards and scorecards. The visualization layer is critical. So as you head down your BI project implementation, don't ignore this layer. This layer will draw a lot of attention to your BI projects. So serve the data up in a scorecard. This is a picture of a scorecard. This happens to be from Business Objects, now part of SAP's, from their suite. Scorecards are typically tied to performance management systems like Six Sigma or Balance Scorecards. A Balance Scorecard breaks out your strategy into those 4 components. You know, you've got a financial strategy, something related to customers, something related to internal processes, and then learning and growth. That's your employee strategy. We also have dashboards. Dashboards tend to be a little more, they're more graphical, tend to be used more at the operations level. But both are used to inform, to educate, and motivate. Multidimensional analysis, serve up the information through cubes, and then this the users can do, right? This they can pivot and drill down. This they can do, and will do. When I said answers anywhere, look and see if you can provide this information via, an iPad, an iPhone, a BlackBerry. So we've now left the 3 A's, the analytical leadership, the agile approach, picking a few key strategic targets, build on your success, think of building rather than growing the software, and our last A was provide answers, serve up answers, and serve them anywhere. To now talking back to the people, process, and technologies, the people. I'm not going to play this video, but when you get a chance, you might want to listen to it. It's actually a video on what is Web 3.0. That's a picture of Tim O'Reilly on the left, O'Reilly Media. O'Reilly is actually credited with coining the term Web 2.0. On the right is the CEO of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman. And if you get a chance to listen to this video, if you start it around 3 minutes and 29 seconds, they talk about a new role within an organization, and that role is or a new title within an organization, and that new title is data scientist. They talk about how in the future we have so much data to mine, both structured and unstructured, unstructured meaning social media data, knowledge management data, that the people, the analysts, are going to play a really important role. Tom Davenport was saying the same thing. I think back to another business case that we conduct with the MBAs, we discuss with the MBAs. It's on SYSCO, it's on the routing company SYSCO, the networking company SYSCO. When they implemented Oracle ERP system, they picked the best people for the project. They picked the people that management didn't want to spare. If you're doing something strategic, you'll be able to get the resources. So now to the technology. How do you decide what platform should we use? Here's where you want to turn to the industry analysts for help. We have Forrester, we have Gartner. This is a report from Forrester. Both Forrester and Gartner analyze different vendors and they compare them. This is from Q4 2010. And in the 4th quarter of 2010, the top vendors were, you can see in the top right there, IBM, that's the Cognos product, SAP, primarily the Business Objects product, Oracle, Information Builders, SAS, and MicroStrategy, and Microsoft. Here's Gartner's information. This is really fresh. This is February 2012. And if we look in the top quadrant of their magic quadrant diagram, IBM, number 1, SAP, number 2, and it looks like Microsoft, which I know many of you are going to be using the Microsoft product. Now, speaking of which, this Gartner report is a 30-something page report, and it lists the strengths and weaknesses of each one of the vendors' product offerings. And I put this slide in here because I know many of you are going to be using the Microsoft product, and that's an excellent choice. I'm a big fan of end-to-end computing solutions, if at all possible. In IT, the pain points are when you're trying to get application A to talk to application B, and they're from different vendors. The blame game starts to happen. You call vendor A, they say it's a vendor B problem. The vendors have a really hard time replicating the problem unless they have the same release of the software, the same database level, et cetera. They have to know the product. So, boy, those problems are kind of ironed out if you have an end-to-end solution, meaning that you're getting your BI solution from the same place that you're getting your ERP solution. So take a look here at what Gartner had to say about the Microsoft product. I'm particularly excited about the 6th bullet, the fully in-memory version of Microsoft Analysis Services cubes that enables a sub-second analysis of billions of rows as opposed to hundreds of millions of rows supported by Power Pivot. So Power View is a new product coming out in 2012, part of SQL Server. And it allows for in-memory processing as opposed to having to create a data warehouse, pull data out of your transaction processing systems and move it. If you can avoid that, that's helpful. You'll need to do that if you are accessing data, though, from multiple data sources and bringing in external data. Speaking of bringing in external data, like Walmart did with the weather, Microsoft has a cloud-based offering that allows it, very easy now for you to bring external data and line it up with your internal data. So I thought you'd appreciate receiving some of that information. In summary, people, process, technology, process. We need analytical leadership in your organizations. You need to convince them of the need for data-driven decisions. You can use some of the material in the slides here to do that. Lack of senior management support is one reason these projects will fail. Take an agile approach. Don't boil the ocean. Pick one or two targets and move forward with those targets. Build on your success. Provide answers anywhere, everywhere. And don't forget the visualization layer, because that will advertise your efforts like nothing else. And concentrate on the multidimensional layer and the visualization layer. Provide answers. The people, very important. You heard what Tom Davenport said about the need to have an analyst in between the IT department and the business users who are providing you with those key performance indicators. And then finally, the technology. Take a look at some of the reports from Forrester, Gartner, what they have to say about some of the products that you're considering. Software is a reference business. Once you have your short list, ask for references and phone them. You will learn just a wealth of information. Even if you decided to go with Microsoft, for example, ask Microsoft for a list of references and phone those references. You will learn a tremendous amount by doing that. I mentioned earlier I was going to show you the books written by Tom Davenport. Here they are, terrific readings. And now I apologize to you, we only have about 6 minutes, although I'm willing to stay on longer. But I'm ready to entertain questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Ruth. This has been a great session. And we do invite you to ask questions. Use the Q&A block that you see on the right. We have time for a few. We've had a question several times in the chat. This session is being recorded, and we will be sharing that with all of you once we get it up on our site, as well as the slides, as Ruth had mentioned. So why don't we start with questions? Actually, there's a request if someone wanted to see the book titles again. Ruth, I can actually maybe just do that so people can see those titles again. But there was a question that came in, and it was, what type of analysis do you create for cross-selling other than basket analysis?
So shopping basket analysis is looking at what products it's analyzing the receipt, right, the sales receipt, and what products are on that sales receipt. So in addition to that, you have profiles of people or statistics on people who have bought similar books, like we see with Amazon. So besides analyzing an individual receipt, you're looking at your top sellers of a particular genre and proposing those items to the customer. So just simply mining your sales statistics and looking at top sellers, and maybe looking at by different dimensions, people who are in the same industry, people who are the same size organization, in a particular geographic location. So just analyzing sales by those dimensions.
Okay, great. There's a question here. it says we're on the road to implementing a corporate BI portal. Is there a universal approach to doing that, and I guess specific to portals here?
Well, we talked in this session about a scorecard approach, and that's very helpful if your company has some sort of performance management system. You know, in most do, particularly if they have a balanced scorecard approach. So many of the software vendors, oh, by the way, have canned portals, have canned scorecards. The one I showed you was a canned scorecard from Business Objects, SAP now. So that is a fairly common approach to use the balanced scorecard approach. What are your financial key performance indicators? What are your customer key performance indicators? Operational and employee, internal, as it's called. And then, you know, that's you're going to also need an operational view. You know, HR is going to want their own view, their own dashboard. Manufacturing is going to want their own dashboard.
All right. We have a question here. It's pretty timely. Thoughts, comments on big data?
Yeah. When you get a chance to listen to the interview with Reid Hoffman and Tim O'Reilly, Reid Hoffman, again, CEO of LinkedIn, talks about the #1 skill that he's seeing requested via LinkedIn is Apache's Hadoop, which allows for the processing of large data sets across clusters of computers. So, you know, back to with all the data we're amassing, particularly the unstructured data coming from social media, knowledge management systems, video, audio files, this is a huge growth area.
All right, and we have a couple questions I'm going to try to summarize here, maybe as our final question, unless anything else comes in. But really, the question is, where's a good place to start for a BI project in terms of the tools? Is it better to try to use what you currently have? For example, if you've purchased Dynamics AX, is it better to start with that, or should you really try to look for the ideal solution first, in terms of ideal BI solution first, or start with what you have?
You know, I'm kind of back to starting with the target. I'm just mainly interested in providing a solution to a strategic business problem. And so the tools are all pretty darn good. I mean, you take a look at the Gartner, when you go back to the slides for Gartner and the Forrester analysis, and all those vendors in the top quadrant, you can't go wrong with any one of them. I would propose that you use a end-to-end solution if you can, you know, meaning get your BI solution from your ERP vendor. They're all pretty darn good, and an end-to-end solution will make your life a lot easier, less complicated, one vendor to deal with. Hopefully the vendor has sorted out those issues where application A is talking to application B, passing data from one to the next. You know, that's where we have all our problems, when the data gets maybe lost in transmission and you got to resubmit it. You know, when we have two tech support vendors on the phone that blaming each other. So if you can go with an end-to-end solution, if the vendor you want to use is in that top quadrant, yeah, that's the way I would go.
All right, great. Well, we are at the top of the hour here, so why don't we end it there? And I just want to thank you again, Ruth, for your time today. This has really been a great look and a great interactive experience for everyone.
Oh, and you're very welcome. And if anyone has any questions going forward, please don't hesitate to send me an email at rgilleran@babson.edu. And again, my email address is on slide 2 or 3, I think it is.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. We are recording this, and we will be in touch. Please fill out the poll, the survey at the end when you close out here, if you don't mind. We really do appreciate your feedback. And keep in touch. We will let you know as we add more webcasts to our series. Thanks again, and have a great day.